Akua and Afua were sisters, but their lives couldn't be more different. Akua was a stunning police officer, respected and admired by her colleagues and the community. She believed in the power of law enforcement and the government's efforts to maintain peace and order. On the other hand, Afua was part of a gangster group in the village, disillusioned with the system and convinced that the police were corrupt and ineffective. The sisters' paths rarely crossed, and when they did, it was always tense. Akua saw Afua's involvement with the gangsters as a betrayal, while Afua viewed Akua's dedication to the police as naive. Despite their differences, they shared a deep love for their village and a desire for peace. As Akua patrolled the streets, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and purpose. She had always dreamed of making a difference, and her work allowed her to do just that. Meanwhile, Afua attended secret meetings and planned underground operations, convinced that the only way to bring about change was through rebellion. Their conflicting beliefs created a rift between them, but little did they know that fate had a way of bringing them together. A series of mysterious events and unexpected encounters would soon force them to confront their differences and work towards a common goal: peace in their beloved village. Akua was on high alert as she responded to a distress call in the village. Rumors of a gangster gathering had spread like wildfire, and she suspected Afua's involvement. As she arrived at the scene, she spotted her sister across the room, her eyes locked in a defiant stare. Afua sneered at Akua's approach, her hand resting on the grip of her gun. "You'll never understand, Akua. You're too blinded by your badge." Akua's heart raced as she tried to reason with her sister, but Afua's words were laced with venom. Just then, a commotion erupted outside, and the gangsters scattered. Akua gave chase, but Afua slipped away into the night. The tension between them was palpable, and Akua knew it was only a matter of time before things escalated. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure watched from the shadows, intrigued by the sisters' dynamic. This figure, known only as the mediator, had a reputation for resolving conflicts and brokering peace. They sensed an opportunity to bring Akua and Afua together, but it would require careful maneuvering. As the night wore on, Akua couldn't shake the feeling that her sister was slipping further away. Little did she know that Afua was struggling with her own doubts and fears, questioning her allegiance to the gangsters and her true purpose. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of their lives forever. The mediator, a wise and enigmatic figure, had been watching the sisters from the shadows. They saw the love and anger, the loyalty and betrayal, and knew the time had come to act. One night, Akua received a cryptic message summoning her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the village. There, she found the mediator, shrouded in darkness. "Akua, your sister is at a crossroads," the mediator said, their voice low and soothing. "She is torn between her loyalty to the gangsters and her desire for peace. You have the power to sway her." Akua was skeptical, but the mediator showed her visions of Afua's inner turmoil, her fear of being trapped in a life she no longer wanted. Akua saw the good in her sister, the love they once shared, and her heart softened. Meanwhile, Afua received a similar message, leading her to the same warehouse. There, she found Akua, her eyes filled with a newfound understanding. "Afua, I know you're struggling," Akua said, her voice filled with empathy. "I want to help you find a way out." For the first time in years, the sisters saw beyond their differences. The mediator's plan was working, but the gangsters and corrupt officers would not let them reunite without a fight. Akua and Afua sat in the dimly lit warehouse, the air thick with tension. The mediator's words hung between them, a promise of redemption and unity. For the first time in years, they saw a glimmer of hope. "Afua, I want to help you leave the gangsters behind, Akua said, her voice filled with conviction. We can work together to bring peace to the village. Afua's eyes searched her sister's face, seeking sincerity. She saw the genuine love and concern that had once bound them together. I want to believe you, Akua, Afua said, her voice barely above a whisper. But the gangsters won't let me go without a fight. The mediator stepped forward, their presence commanding attention. I can help you both. I have connections that can protect Afua and bring the corrupt officers to justice. Akua's eyes narrowed, skeptical of the mediator's motives. But Afua's desperate gaze convinced her to trust. Together, they formed a fragile alliance, bound by their desire for peace and their love for each other. Little did they know that the gangsters and corrupt officers would stop at nothing to crush their newfound unity. As they parted ways, the sisters shared a glimmer of hope, a spark that would ignite their journey towards redemption and peace. But the road ahead would be treacherous, and their bond would be tested like never before. Afua's decision to leave the gangsters didn't go unnoticed. Their leader, the ruthless and cunning Kofi, summoned her to a secret meeting. Afua, you're betraying us, Kofi sneered, his eyes blazing with anger. You'll pay for your disloyalty. Afua stood tall, her heart pounding in her chest. I'm leaving because I want peace, Kofi. I won't be a part of your violence anymore. Kofi snarled, his hand grasping for his gun. But the mediator's men intervened, protecting Afua from harm. Meanwhile, Akua was investigating a tip about a corrupt officer's involvement in the gangsters' activities. She followed the trail to a seedy bar on the outskirts of the village, where she spotted the officer colluding with Kofi. Akua's anger boiled over, but she knew she had to tread carefully. She couldn't take on the corrupt officers and gangsters alone, not yet. But she vowed to expose their criminal network, no matter the cost. As the night wore on, Afua and Akua separately navigated the treacherous landscape, each facing their own battles. But they were no longer alone, united in their quest for peace and justice. Akua and Afua met in secret, their hearts racing with anticipation. They knew they had to join forces to take down the corrupt officers and gangsters. Akua, I have information about Kofi's operations, Afua said, her voice barely above a whisper. But we need to be careful. He has eyes everywhere. Akua nodded, her mind racing with strategy. I've been investigating the corrupt officers. I think I can get evidence to bring them down. The sisters exchanged a look, their bond stronger than ever. They knew they were taking a risk, but they were determined to see it through. Together, they hatched a plan to gather evidence and build a case against the corrupt officers and gangsters. They worked tirelessly, gathering intel and piecing together the puzzle. As they worked, they began to realize that their differences were not as great as they had seemed. They found common ground in their desire for justice and peace. Finally, the day arrived when they were ready to act. With the mediator's help, they orchestrated a daring raid on Kofi's headquarters, gathering evidence and arresting the corrupt officers. The village erupted in cheers as the news spread. Akua and Afua had brought hope back to their community. But they knew their work was far from over. They vowed to continue fighting for justice, side by side. The village celebrated the sisters' victory, hailing them as heroes. Akua and Afua stood together, hand in hand, as they watched the community come together in a way they never had before. The mediator smiled, their work done. You two have shown that even in the darkest times, love and unity can prevail. With the corrupt officers and gangsters brought to justice, the village began to flourish. New businesses opened, and children played in the streets without fear. Akua and Afua continued to work together, establishing a community center to support those in need. They became leaders in the village, their bond a symbol of hope and redemption. One day, as they sat on a bench watching the sunset, Afua turned to Akua with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Akua. For everything." Akua embraced her sister, holding her close. "We're past sorry, Afua. We're in a new era now. One of love, forgiveness, and peace." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sisters knew that their journey was far from over. But they were ready, side by side, to face whatever came next. The village prospered, and the sisters' legend grew. They became known as the Peacemakers, their names etched in history as a reminder that even in the darkest times, love and unity can prevail. And so, Akua and Afua lived out their days in peace, their bond a beacon of hope for generations to come. The end.